This coming Sunday, we'll be in Romans chapter 9, talking about the question, is God fair? I'd like to teach a parable that Jesus taught that relates to the sermon. It's found in Matthew chapter 20. So Matthew chapter 20 says, "For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard." Now, the landowner represents God, and we are his people in the vineyard working, and the vineyard itself represents an opportunity we have to serve God. So what happens is the landowner comes to these workers early in the morning, and he says, "I've got an abundant harvest. I've got a lot of grapes to bring in. Would you fellas like to have a job?" And they say, "Of course." And so they entered into a contract early in the morning to work in the landowner's vineyard. And off to work they went. Well, a little later in the day, about noon, the landowner comes back to the marketplace and there's some more people there. And he says, "Fellas, would you like a job?" They said, "Sure." And so he carts them off to the vineyard and they work the rest of the day. About 3 p.m, the landowner comes back and he's still looking for more workers in his vineyard. And so he says to these guys, "Hey guys, want a job?" They said, "Sure." And so he takes them to his vineyard and they work the rest of the day. And finally at 5 o'clock, now there's not much time to be transported from the marketplace to the vineyard, but he hires these people at 5 o'clock and they work for 1 hour. And then at 6 o'clock, the normal working hours were from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. It's payday. It was unlawful for a landowner to withhold wages. And so the last ones are paid first. And guess what? The last ones are paid a denarius. Now, denarius was a lot more than they deserved because the denarius was the wage for a soldier. And these guys had worked only 1 hour in the vineyard and they're paid a whole denarius. And then he paid out the guys who came at 3 and at noon. And he finally came to the ones who were hired first. And they thought, this is going to be a nice payday. We're going to be rolling in cash. This landowner is going to really heap it on us. And so when he gave them their pay, he gave them a denarius, teaching us that the last will be first and the first will be last. And guess what? They weren't really happy with their wages. They were upset. They thought, this is unfair. We should have been paid more because we bore the heat of the day. We did more work than these other guys, and the guys should have rewarded us for our work. And the landowner, who's God, says, "Was I unfair to you to give to you what we agreed to? We made a deal saying that I would pay you a denarius. Now, here's your denarius. Take it and leave." We wrestle with the question of fairness. We experience life where things seem so unfair to us. So as you wrestle with that question of the unfairness of life and the unfairness of God, I'd like you now to read through Romans chapter 9 to see how Paul handles that basic question of, is God unfair?